May I have your attention, please? The podcast World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment, is now on the air. May I have your attention, please? The podcast World Awakenings is now on the air.
This is World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with your host, Carl Gruber. World Awakenings is a podcast dedicated to opening your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to all things metaphysical and spiritual, and just how they play an all-important role in our daily life. So join Carl on this enlightening experience as he interviews metaphysical and spiritual experts to discuss, debate, and delve deeply into the hows and whys of this worldwide awakening.
We welcome you to the World Awakenings podcast. Before we start, we'd like to tell you about a special ebook written by the show's host, Carl Gruber. The 3 Pillars, a simple 3-step process to manifest positive and permanent change in your life. The concise 32-page 3 Pillars ebook will teach you how to become a successful and consistent co-creator of your life path with the law of attraction. Yes, you can manifest the life you truly desire, and the ebook is absolutely free. Simply go to Carl's website, carlgruberlifecoach.com. That's KARLGRUBER lifecoach.com. Click on the header title About Me and get the free download today. Carl Gruber's free ebook, The 3 Pillars, will positively change your life.
Hey everyone, I'm your host Carl Gruber of this podcast, World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment. And for the past 34 episodes of this show, we've been blessed to have some of the finest and most respected teachers in the world of all things spiritual and metaphysical. Now today's show, episode number 35, continues that tradition and then some, as we welcome a man who is a shining example of someone who walks the talk he talks with integrity and truth, and that is Steeve Farrell. Now, Steeve Farrell is co-founder and worldwide executive director of Humanity's Team, a nonprofit organization based in Boulder, Colorado. Humanity's Team is a global organization whose focus is helping people throughout the world awaken to their deeper self and interconnectedness or oneness of everything in the universe. Humanity's Team is a spiritual organization that boldly and sincerely communicates the message of oneness, conscious awareness, and divine nature. I just love that. That's awesome. As a nonprofit, Humanity's Team has no focus on growing profits or satisfying shareholders, and 100% of all revenue goes toward their work supporting conscious evolution, planetary awakening, and flourishing at every level of life. And not only does Steeve host his own podcast, but he is constantly leading workshops, masterminds, symposiums with some of the top people in the world in the fields of spirituality, consciousness, quantum physics, and the interconnectedness of the world, such as people like Neale Donald Walsch, Greg Braden, Lynn McTaggart, Michael Beckwith, Barbara Marks Hubbard, Deborah Roseman, Bruce Lipton, and many, many more. All of those people are my heroes. And I'll tell you, Steeve, welcome to World Awakenings, a fast track to enlightenment. I'm so grateful to have you on.
Yeah, Carl, thanks for having me. And thanks for that generous introduction. It's great to be here with you and your viewers and listeners.
Oh, man, I'll tell you, I just, when I found out you were going to be on, I was just so excited about it. So over the last year or so, I've really gotten to, I get your emails all the time about all your workshops and everything about Humanity's Team. Now, I have to ask you, I mean, this is quite a gargantuan task you've taken on. Now, how did you come about creating Humanity's Team, and what drove you to take on such a seemingly big task of expanding human consciousness and interconnectedness?
Well, let me go back to the 1990s to answer that question. I was in kind of in the right place at the right time. I was a technology entrepreneur in Silicon Valley, and I started a couple of companies with a partner that were in this whole data communication space that were growing like crazy. And during that time frame, I read a lot of literature on what it is to be conscious. The Conversations with God books were the first books that I read in that time frame, but then others as well, and got in touch with this timeless truth, this ancient truth that we're all one. We're all offspring of the divine, or emanations of the divine. Of course, even in the Old Testament, it says, right, we're made in the likeness and image of God, but that's usually either forgotten or it's reserved for 30 minutes on Sunday. It's not taken as a real definition of who we are. We don't generally self-realize around that statement. But I got deeply in touch with what that meant in the 90s when I was on this just supersonic stratospheric growth curve with my companies. And I realized I was kind of playing a kid's game there, growing these companies, top line revenue and profitability. We were very progressive, doing neat things, adopting an important local high school, and involved in other charitable projects. But at the end of the day, I was the CEO of a company, and then another company. And so you're responsible then for your employee base and getting that growth and returning those numbers to shareholders. That has to be your number one responsibility. And I realized that even in the 90s, and of course here we are in 2020, so 25 years have passed. But even then, you could look out your window as we do today, and see a climate change problem, a lack of training for good jobs problem, many social injustices, on and on and on. The list of things problems we could see looking out our window was endless. Quite similar to today, except that now we have COVID and it's gotten worse. But so I realized that at the end of my life, that I would be very unhappy if I were just going to be an entrepreneur that was focusing on financial gain. And so I sold these companies. I left these organizations I was involved in, left most of my friends, and with my family moved to Boulder, Colorado. And I helped Neale Donald Walsch then launch Humanities Team in 2003. And for the last 17 years, this has been my life work. Now, you're bringing in, well, what were we thinking, with this bold mission of awakening oneness in the world and supporting people on their conscious journey and these things. And, candidly, it was bold then. I guess it's bold now. But, the truth always prevails. And so in unconscious living, where we think we're just some random lucky sperm, and that we're, there's this Newtonian thing of we're all separate, and this Darwinian thing of I'm going to go out and get treasure and just bring it back to my family, and ignore the world. That can't go on forever. It's just not, it's an illusion. These things are not true. They're just not true. I lived in Silicon Valley where there was all of this financial wealth, and even there it's not true. That's kind of its own discussion for some other time. But and the truth is, I called it the ancient truth, the timeless truth. It's not. It's everywhere. If we study sacred text and then look at what scientists are now sharing, look at what modern philosophers are now sharing. They're sharing that we are all deeply interrelated, interconnected, and interdependent. And that's not just all of humanity. That's the animal kingdom, that's the earth. It's actually the cosmos that extends out beyond the planet. And so, and if we live our lives then in integrity with those truths, well, we're going to live a very different life than a life where it's about just the old American dream of pursuing materiality.
Well, let me just go back here for a moment. So here you are, a successful entrepreneur in Silicon Valley, and it sounds to me like you answered the call that so many people in the, literally almost everybody in the world feels, well, there's got to be something more. There's got to be something more. And very few take the action to take that step to find out what that something more. But in your case, that's exactly what you did. And so you mentioned the book's series of Conversations with God. That's Neale Donald Walsch, right? And he co-founded Humanity's Team with you, right?
He did. Yeah. In fact, there are 10 Conversations with God books. One of the books, Tomorrow's God, gets into the whole discussion of Humanity's Team, where it's where it was actually launched. It was launched in the book where Neale is talking to God about how can we create a movement and really create this awakening and so on. And God said, start Humanity's Team. And so there's a discussion that ensues. It's right there in the book. And so this is where the inspiration came from. But this also gave us a fair amount of strength and courage in the beginning. But this wasn't something that we just dreamed up on our own. In fact, my mother-in-law first coined the term God job, but we've since adopted it inside of Humanity's Team of it's a God job. That's what this is. And a God job is going to go to its destination. So as impossible as it might look, it's what's going to happen. Our job is to get up every day and just be in this place of service, or you could call it surrender, where we're really in this deep place of connection, or you could call it communion, where we're just in service to the work. And we do all of what we can do in a day, and then we go home and get a good night's sleep and come back and do it again the next day. And it's about as simple as that. And fortunately, in the last 25 years, there has been a good deal of awakening. This notion of oneness, of deep connection. Most people now have some awareness of these terms, some understanding of what that means. There are more and more people now on this conscious journey that have decided this is what their life is going to be about. And I would just say to your listeners and viewers as well, you were saying, well, must have been taken a lot to walk away from all that. I would say that this is, a life is a precious thing. We don't want to waste a life. We want to, so whatever our calling is, and for me, this was a calling as it was revealed to me, this oneness, and et cetera, in the mid-90s. And I just followed my calling. And that's what I would just invite all of us to do. And I would guess actually your listeners and viewers are already, that's why they're on the conscious journey, is they were tapped on the shoulder, they got that calling, and they're following it. And I would just say, where we follow it fully and don't hold anything back, that creates a life of meaning, a life of purpose, and the most fruitful life.
Was it hard for you to convince your family when you told them and said, I'm going to sell this successful business and I'm going to go teach the consciousness and the awakening of the world? Was that a tough sell to your family?
Well, fortunately, there's actually nothing in life that is ever random, that's ever going on. And so I'm going to call it led down this path into this calling. I was part of that, being led down the path was being led to a woman who could journey the path with me.
Sweet.
In general, as you mentioned, in Silicon Valley, a wife would not be open to this at all. This isn't something most partners would want to do, male or female. But my wife said, I'm in. And I said, it's something I have to do. I don't really feel like I have any option here. And she says, I'm in, let's do it. And then we went on to have our kids. And as it turns out, I'm also a much better dad.
Yeah, I would have
and a much better husband on this conscious journey. Because, of course, when we're conscious, this is our bigger self now, and it's about really feeling into other people's needs and understanding how we can help and how we can be more loving. So a better husband, a better dad. I'm a much better father and husband where I'm now in this role in humanities team than I ever would have been in Silicon Valley when I was single-mindedly driving this growth that we were achieving in these two companies.
See, this makes complete sense to me because with my studies of A Course in Miracles, we're taught that what you give, you receive. It comes right back to you. And that makes complete sense to me that you would be a better father, a better husband, a better person, simply because of what you have been giving out to the world. Yes, Steve, was given right back to you, probably 100-fold. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's this, we call it boomerang effect, which is what you're alluding to here also, Carl, where when we give ourselves in pure service, so we throw that, you could call it this boomerang out in pure service, where we're just, okay, I'm here, I'm in, to help people on their conscious journey, to support planetary awakening, to create flourishing at every level of life, which is to say in our own life, in our relationships and in our home, in our workplace, in our country and in the world, where we do that without any little agendas of if, this and if that. But it's just the big agenda of I'm going to do that. I feel this calling. I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. Well, then there are all kinds of this boomerang effect of all these blessings come back. The home that I was led to, the wife that I was led to, the kids that I was led to, the coworkers and partners that I have in the humanities team that I was led to, the faculty that I was, just on and on and on and on and on. The divine is saying, you're in, and I'm going to put these resources at your disposal, and let's go. And now I don't mean to say this though, like, there are no challenges here, because it's not like that. It's not like there have been many challenges, in fact, many substantial challenges, but I never get turned over on my back. I always get straightened out and keep going. And the challenges are really more like a spiritual gym where there's just some more weight put on so I can get stronger to build it. So the challenges don't go away, but there's a certainty about the destination, and therefore the worry just falls off. I can get a great night's sleep, but don't have to worry about anything. I know where we're going.
Yeah, you sound like a marathon runner. If you fall down during the race, you get up and brush yourself off and start running again. So, I want to ask you, I mean, this area is a big special interest for me, and I'm very excited. I'm really curious as to your studies in both science and spirituality. How do these align to help expand our understanding of our world and our interconnectedness? I mean, teachers like Greg Braden and Lynn McTaggart, I've read all their books, and I just watched your chat with Greg Braden, was phenomenal. They're prime examples of this. So how does that synthesis of science and spirituality come together?
Yeah, it's a perfect bridge, really. It's a perfect bridge, the science and spirituality. And we could even put philosophy in there with Ken Wilber. It's just where you read these deeply, they're describing the very same thing. Now, science and philosophy, of course, are telling us how it works and why, and even getting into what it is that's working, and that there's an explanation of the architecture of what it is, of how it's working. Now, spirituality is now more a deeply felt thing. It's down, now we're in our heart, we're in that portal, our soul, in this place of connection with the divine, with nature, with life. It's more of a felt experience as opposed to a cerebral or academic or cognitive experience. But it's a perfect bridge because science is explaining what it is and how it works. And then where we have that awareness through the science of Sim Harriman with what he's doing in quantum physics and many others. There are many scientists now that are devoting their lives to this work, and they're bringing forward the equations and the math and the science that explain what it is and how it works. And that can create then even a firmer foundation for our life as we're on this conscious journey where we really understand how it works. And then we're experiencing how it works through our spirituality. It's a perfect bridge.
Well, that brings me to a question too. I found that many minds are simply closed to believing that science is now empirically proving the reality of what the spiritual icons and teachers have been saying for most of humanity and history. How do you overcome this type of closed-mindedness? Some people just, if they hear it, they don't believe it, or they don't want to hear it at all.
Yeah, there are many that don't believe it or that maybe would look down on it. And in the old American dream type world, everybody wants to kind of stay on their same level of like wealth of, I've founded a company this big and my friends are at this level, and or at this, I've founded a company this big at this level, or I'm an employee and at this level. And that whole thing where we can look at askance at others that you perceive are below you. So how I deal with that and what we believe in Humanities Team is our primary role while we're on this conscious journey is one, to live it fully ourselves. So we're really embodying the truth of what this spirituality is. And that's about inner journey then, where we have our practices that we're engaging in during the day, that are where we're going within, and that's creating this new being state that's quite different than this cognitive, mental, emotional being state that's the old American dream, where we're all in our head with task lists and things. This is very different when we're on a conscious journey. So that's our primary mission, because we can't be good to anybody if we're not living it ourselves and really embodying the truth of our spirituality. Now, after we do that ourselves, then our job is to be healers and alchemists. And the way we do that is just by living it. And so where we come into people and say, that's crap and this BS and there's no truth to that. And I wouldn't believe it even if it were true. That's a recent thing I wouldn't believe it even if it were true. That's not our problem. That's not our challenge. And where we get triggered by that or want to come back hard on that, there's no value in that whatsoever. We can just say, well, okay, I'm not here to proselytize something. I'm not here to try and tell people the truth or some one path or journey. That's not my role. My role and our role in Humanities Team is we're living it to the best of our ability. We're very devoted. We're supporting others who want to live it, that are on this conscious journey, that want to create planetary awakening, that want to create flourishing in life. And that's our role. So where people are going to push back on us or disagree with us or yell at us, or okay, but we're just going to kind of let that go. That's really not something we're going to be challenged by.
Yeah, and somebody like that, they have their paradigms. They're on their path that they've chosen in life. And the best advice I ever heard was that when you do run into somebody like that, will simply just argue every single point, and finally just don't continue arguing with them, or like you said, proselytizing. Just love them. Just love them to the best of your ability, and then actually, like you said, lead by example, live your life, and eventually they might, if it's within their journey to go ahead and change, then they will, because you lived, like I said in the intro, you walk the talk that you talk. So, and it's great. So
real change will only come from living it. There's no, and we can look at examples through the history of time. There's no lasting change that ever comes from just vocal cord, just a mental awareness that's being expressed. That alone never has created long-term change. So the only thing that's going to create the long-term change is where we're really living it And as you mentioned, loving people, being a healer, being an alchemist. How do we do that? By just not falling down into becoming triggered with people. Instead of coming down to people's level where they're not there, invite them to come up to this other level. How? By just simply remaining in this place of connection where they can see we don't have an agenda. We're not trying to tell anybody what to do. We're just simply being here as a truthful and loving presence and inviting the highest outcomes for others.
I like that statement, invite them to come up. That is a great one. So here we are at the end of 2020, and we have almost 8 billion human beings who are living in fear of each other, afraid they're going to die. There's other chaotic things happening throughout the world, as we well know. You don't mention climate change. I know that's a big thing for you too, and that's getting worse and worse. How can somebody who is, and this is most of the world, living in fear right now, how can they apply what you're talking about to live a better daily life? I mean, it's got to be a practical daily moment-to-moment implementation somehow.
Yeah, first, we believe in humanity's team that this COVID was not anything random at all, that we were just going so fast, driving toward this like old American dream of materiality, that we were hurting ourselves and our families and our lives and ultimately the collective, the earth, that we weren't going in the direction that we needed to go in if we were going to create thriving, fulfilling lives. So COVID has given us the opportunity to take a step back, to feel into more silence, to go into contemplation, to consider more deeply, to see if our values are aligned with how we were living our lives, and to reconsider possibilities as to how we might live our lives, where our lives are more aligned with our deeply held values. So as we go into 2021, that pivot is the big important pivot, and we're at various places on the journey. Some of us as beginners, others that are further down the path, but the pivot itself from unconscious living, that's more about just materiality, where we're not truly following our calling. Where we were talking about this earlier, of I'm not ready to do that. I'm afraid of doing that. I would just invite people to spend more time really with this, if this is happening to you, where you're not truly and fully following your calling, because that's the crucial thing, that we make that pivot to conscious living. We follow our calling. We go to our station in life. They're all quite different. Some people's station in life is more to be a truth teller. Others is to more be a healer. And there are many, many others, and they can also function in many different ways. But this is the important thing going into 2021, is that we step fully into our conscious journey. We go to our station in life, and we fully embody what we're being called to. And then we go to these other roles where we're helping others on our conscious journey. It can be anything from just in our home with our kids and our family, to something much larger than that, where we're getting reach and impact all over the world. Whatever it is, just following it fully, and really being totally devoted. And the more we're following it and the more devoted we are, again, the more fruitful our lives become. That there's this, people often think of conscious journey as I'm giving things up and sacrifice and things. No, it's just the opposite of that. We're not giving anything up. This boomerang effect is going on. We're getting lots more back. We're much more fulfilled on this journey, where we're in service, than we ever were before, where it was the smaller self just attending to the needs of ourselves and our family.
I'm so glad that you used that term pivot. I'm a law of attraction coach, and that's actually one of the processes I use working with clients. We forgot, as a human being, as the divine son, our holy birthright, that we have a choice. And the way you applied it, pivoting in a daily implementation you have the choice to pivot on the spot and go from thinking all the negative, chaotic, and disempowering thoughts to the opposite, to joyful, happy, empowering, loving thoughts. And pivoting, it's simple. You can do it anywhere. Standing in line at the grocery store or getting gas, you can pivot right on the spot.
Yes, you can. Yeah, and one of the elements too, which this is discussed in Conversations with God quite a lot, and actually other texts as well, A Course in Miracles, and even extensively in the Bible and in sacred text, is to be the source. So a lot of times all of us have fallen in life this place of victimhood. I have, growing up, and I would guess we all can relate to that, where you're even shaking your hand at the sky, at the divine, and why did you put me here in this, with this, I've got so little, and these things, health issues or financial issues or relationship issues, whatever they are. And so we're magicians that have lost our way when that happens. We've gotten lost in our magic. Because in truth, we are all emanations of the divine. We are princes and princesses of the Most High, and all of that love essence, that prosperity essence, all of it is here now. And what we can do whenever we get lost, and the love that we seek in a relationship, we give the love we just crank it up and start giving love to all relationships, and all of a sudden we'll realize it was always there. Or the financial prosperity that we thought wasn't there, we start giving that. We find that and then that starts coming back to us. We find that was always there. And again, we can go right down the line. Forgiveness, where we feel pained by people that don't like us, and where we turn that around and we forgive people for their projections, for their thoughts about us. That one turns around quickly and easily. So just become the source, that we are the source. It actually is all here now. As well, if we go back 100 years, and certainly beyond that, 200 and 300 and 400 years, we all are living like princes and princesses. My God,
yes, we are.
The food, the housing, the automobile, the transportation, the vacation, on and on and on. Even if we're in the lowest 20 percentile here in the United States, we're living beyond what the kings and queens, princes and princesses of yesterday had.
Yeah.
So, that's the thing about the old American dream, is this whole comparison thing of, well, I don't, but I know that, or my neighbor or something. And we release all of that on our conscious journey. We realize all of that stuff, a brand new car every year. And even I have a nice jacket. My wife was asking me today, I've got black masking tape on it. I love this jacket. I don't want another jacket,
Well, you patched up a hole on it, is that it?
Yeah, some feathers started coming out a few years ago, and I just it's a black jacket and North Face, and I just put a black masking tape on it. I love this jacket. I don't want another jacket. Everything changes, and we realize that we don't want a lot of stuff, and that we enjoy giving, and everything gets turned around from, in my case, from those years in the early 90s, where I'm the CEO in Silicon Valley, to today. Everything is just completely different. That's what the conscious journey introduces, a life that's completely different. It's much more fulfilling.
Well, you mentioned a little while ago about a person maybe, cursing at God. Why did you do this to me? I lost my job. I got COVID. My wife's leaving me. But again, it goes back to our inherent power of choice and using our will. Instead of wallowing in a victim mentality, they can choose to, quote, pivot and just make the choice to turn, well, maybe if I start focusing on more positive things, and I'm sure there's people who are in that situation hear me saying, oh, yeah, right, easy for you to say. Well, it starts one step at a time, right? You have to start making that pivot.
You do, yeah. I'm actually just finishing a book here that's coming out about the 40 years of my life from when I was in my it starts when I was 15, so it's actually more than 40 years to today. And part of the reason for the book, because I wasn't wanting to write a book actually, I
Mhm.
more felt called to do this. But as I grew up, with a single mom, and I've got 6 brothers and sisters, and
Oh,
my
wow.
mother was a legal secretary. So I didn't come into like privilege or born into privilege or something. I was just like everybody, all of the viewers and listeners that are here, that grew up. I didn't have anything really. Um, I felt like I had plenty growing up, but I was, today we would call our family lower middle class. And I just followed my calling, and I've given it. Since I followed my calling, I've been very passionate, therefore, about the things I've done, which have led me one step at a time to where I am today. So the things that I talk about are things hopefully people can relate to, because I'm like every person. I feel like I'm every person's life. That uh, I used to think that, oh, you had to be born into a certain kind of family or go to Harvard or something like that, which is
Mhm.
nonsense. What I've realized through my journey is it's not like that at all. It's more just, are we following our calling? And then if we are, we're incredibly passionate and devoted. That's what it means to follow your calling. And then when you are incredibly passionate and devoted, you're going to do better than the people that went to Harvard or that were born with a silver spoon, because you're all in. So, and then you're going to have the most amazing life. My life has been incredible. The things that I've been able to do in the Silicon Valley days, I would fly on private jets. That I would belong to a business group where they had private jets, and I'd go to private ski area and stuff. And I realized back then that that wasn't fulfilling at all, and that lifestyle of the American dream was a mirage. And so what I mean by that is, you get to a certain level of wealth, with these things, jets and things, and then what happens is then you want a bigger jet, and a bigger home in that private ski community, you know. It just goes on. So as soon as you get to where you thought you'd seen success, you realize, no, it's out a bit further. I got to keep going.
Mhm.
And fortunately, through my journey, I could see the mirage. I could see this isn't the truth. I'm not going to find real happiness here. And as well, I was bringing in earlier, as I was looking out my window at the world, that there are huge challenges here, and we are all deeply connected. We're actually one. And so where we see that connection and that oneness, that's then bringing in this aspect of responsibility. That's what happens. If you're connected and you're one, then you're responsible. And if you're responsible and you're mature, well, then that means we're going to take some positive action. These are things we naturally do. It's what the conscious journey is. And so as I followed this journey, and as it's unfolded in front of me, this is what, there's no mirage here. This is where you really can see your journey. And it's not just about a destination of I'll be happy when. You're actually happy all along the journey. You're living in this place of authenticity and truth to who you are, and you're in this place of service, which is incredibly meaningful for not only me but my wife, my kids, these partners of mine in the humanities team. So yeah, I mean the thing is go all in, and don't think that there's anybody with a silver spoon out there, or Harvard or Stanford education out there, that's got some better journey, because I don't think they do. I wouldn't trade my life for anybody's. And I think
Awesome.
that's the invitation for all of us. We don't want to trade our life for anybody's.
That's the way it should be. And so you have a book. Do you have a name for a title for the book yet?
We I don't have that right in front of me, but what it's about is it's about this um, going from my Silicon Valley success to a life of meaning and
Mm.
purpose, is what is going to be in the title.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so it's it's not an autobiography where I'm trying to just tell every story of my life, but it's following this journey of me leaving this home with 6 brothers and sisters and a single mom to and my first job out of college, where I'm a inside auditor trainee, the lowest level job ever, to what in Silicon Valley the 2 companies I started went to 75 million in revenue, and then I sold those, and then I came into this work, and so it's quite an adventure story, really.
I definitely want to get a copy when it comes out. So, Steve, I am going to change gears here. I'm going to ask you about something else. I am absolutely fascinated by the work and the studies done on the capabilities and little-known brain-like functions of the human heart. I know the Heart Math Institute has done this. I know that you have studied extensively. I know your talk with Greg Braden recently went into that. I mean, can you talk about that a little bit? And I know people can go watch the Greg Braden interview and the Deborah Roseman interview too, but what a fascinating discovery.
Yeah, there are fascinating discoveries. We grew up thinking our heart was a pump, that it's just pumping blood. And it turns out that there is incredible cellular intelligence in our heart. It's so much more than we ever thought that it might be. It's not only intelligence at a local level, but with a portal to all of the collective, the whole world around us. It's very substantial. That program you're referencing, I think, it's the Science of Self-Empowerment that we created with Greg Braden, Bruce Lipton, and then the Heart Math leaders, Deborah Rosman and Howard Martin. There's actually a 3-hour free program on our website, humanitiesteam.org, and at the top it says Masterclasses, and then you'll see it says free courses there when you click on Masterclasses, and it's that free course there with these 4 leaders that people might want to check out, because they're going to get into a level of discussion there that'll take you into this frontier of what the capacities of the heart are, that are just mind-blowing. Really, it's mind-blowing, the intelligence that's coming out. It's still emerging, actually. It's unfolding as we speak, and Heart Math is right there in the center of it, and Greg Braden works very closely with Heart Math. So does Bruce Lipton. Yeah, I won't try and go deeper into it than that. But part of the conscious journey, as we know, is we're moving from the head to the heart. We're basing ourselves, even right now, as we're watching and listening, notice where it feels like your center is. I mean, my center is right here. I can feel my center here. And this is different than 25, 30 years ago. I would say my center more felt like it was here. I felt like I was more thinking, planning. It was all cerebral. It was cognitive. It's not, I don't live that way anymore. My basis is here. And here's where from this place, we can go way beyond local intelligence into this non-local intelligence, which is any wisdom anywhere in the universe we can actually tap from here. And we do tap from here during our conscious journey. We understand this oneness thing, this deep connection thing is real. And where we need any information, guidance, support, anything, it's available to us right here.
Boy, I can see how you are never going to run out of topics to talk about on Humanity's Team. I think that I have read that, we all have an energy field around our bodies, but that the studies have shown that the energy projected from the heart extends far out from the body than your general energy field itself. And also, Greg Braden was talking the other day, they discovered that there's like 40,000 neurons within the heart itself that have brain-like functions.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just astounding. It's astounding. We think of ourselves as a modern population, but there's so much that's just being revealed to us now about the heart, about consciousness also. The consciousness is not well understood by most scientists at all today. It's those out on the frontier, on the edges of our current frontier, like Greg and Nassim and Bruce and Lynn and others, that are only beginning to really fully understand what consciousness is and what the capacity of the heart are, and there's so many dimensions to it. The metaphysical dimension to it, and in the metaphysical dimension, it's beyond intention. So, and the intention is we're waking up every day and we knowing exactly where we're going. We're knowing who we are. We're knowing why we're here. We're knowing all of these things. In the metaphysical, now we've got the whole painted picture in front of us. We actually can feel the destination. We know what we're walking into. We know with certainty of what that feels like. And we're actually living in the reality of what we're walking into. And so things like where we're wanting to heal some part of our body, we can create healing because we're actually feeling into it. It's incredibly powerful. The heart is the portal, is where we're based, as we're metaphysically feeling into that future, which becomes our reality even in this moment and on a day-to-day basis.
I think it's phenomenal that you have had talks with Lynn McTaggart, too, who is one of my favorite scientists, consciousness writers. Her books, The Field and The Intention Experiment. I think she talks about the non-locality of consciousness, and that I think in one of her books that I think was Intention Experiment, she said there's over 40 scientific proven research projects that show that we are all one conscious-wise. There's no way to look at it any other way. They've proven that quantum physicists have done this. Phenomenal.
Yes, they have. And what's phenomenal is if you look back over what Pluto said and others that go back thousands of years, some of the great classical leaders of our day that have talked about oneness, that this consciousness, that's emerged consciousness, that where there is no separation actually at all, and what thoughts are put out there remain out there. They're incredible quotes, incredible things that have been said, statements that are historical, and but because we're a young humanity on this planet, we've just kind of overlooked it of, oh, that's ambiguous, or that I don't understand the practicality of that. It's just kind of been swept aside, or worse, marginalized if that isn't true. And but where you again look at the entirety of these quotes and things that have been said over time, there's no escaping the truth of what is here. And then more importantly, as you decide that their truth is that awareness sets in, then you start on this conscious journey where you're acquiring the skills then of living it, where you're expressing it, where you're embodying it. So then you're feeling into these truths. That's what the conscious journey is. We're not just taking it on fact, on some awareness level. We're now living in the skills of it, and we're feeling its truth in every moment and every day. Mm-hmm. So this is the planet is journeying in this direction. We will, I believe, in my lifetime, that we're going to advance into a state of collective consciousness that's well beyond where we are today. And if we even look back 25 years, we're well beyond where we were then. And so, we can relax into it, have fun with it. You were sharing, Carl, you like to have fun with your program. It doesn't have to be all serious. We can have
everything
fun with
too serious. Yeah. So that's why I laugh when my big fat cat jumps up on the table during the show, which she didn't get in the camera earlier. But so just a reminder to our viewers and listeners, we are speaking to Executive Director of the Global Organization Humanities Team, Steeve Farrell. Steve rubs shoulders on a daily basis with some of the brightest minds and teachers of consciousness and quantum physics and spirituality. And Steve, with everything that Humanities Team is doing right now, is there one project that really excites you more than any you're doing right now?
There is, yeah. We have a project that is incredibly exciting, and what we're doing with Humanities Stream is we're putting most of our master classes and our programs from the last 17 years and live programs that we're doing all the time, and virtual communities, a private Facebook community, but also our own virtual community that we've created called humanities.team. All of these things together into one offering is called Humanities Stream, and the future, as we know, is streaming. So movies are being streamed, music is being streamed, and now consciousness is being streamed, master classes, all of these other kinds of programs, all streamed. So you can be anywhere in the world, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and you can have all of this available to you. And we have packaged this so that it's all available at very inexpensively. Right now, it's a little less than $600 a year for the program with all of these things in it. And we consider it, we're a nonprofit, by the way, so we don't have any shareholders. You mentioned that in your introduction here, Carl, when you were introducing me. So we're not trying to price things to grab revenue growth or something. We're pricing things to get to as many people as we can all over the world. So our single master class is $297, and so for about double that price, we put all of our master classes together and all of this other stuff in there. Almost 200 programs and growing that are available to people. And so where you're on this conscious journey and you want to have access to all of this kind of stuff and a little bit of heaven on earth, which is, that when we're on the conscious journey, we all are talking about a heaven on earth that's somewhere out in the future. The way we're looking at that in the Humanities Team is it's not just out in the future, we're actually building it day by day. Mm-hmm. That's what we're putting into Humanities Stream. It's how we designed it of, okay, if we wanted to, all of the things that we want, that we can create virtually in community, what are all those things? And those are all the things that we packed into this as inexpensively as we could so that people can access it from anywhere in the world, relatively inexpensively and feel into it and meet others that are on the journey. So that's probably the thing I'm most excited about right now.
Well, Steve, all I can say is what you and your team, the Humanities Team, are doing is just off the charts phenomenal. You guys really are. I mean, this show is about why now more than ever the people of the world, despite all the chaos and insanity going, why now more than ever are the people of the world awakening to all things enlightening, and what you are doing is promoting and purveying that, and it's just wonderful stuff. I visit your website and read your emails on a daily basis, and anybody watching or listening to this, do so. If you have even a modicum of interest in this stuff, what Steve Farrell and his group is doing will expand that geometrically beyond, out into infinity. Steve, how do people find your website? What's your website address?
Yes, it's humanitiesteam.org. So that's with a Y, humanitiesteam.org. And you can Google Humanities Team, and you'll see the site is ever changing. So all of these master classes and things are coming in, new ones all the time. There's a new one that we're working on now that will come out in January with Deborah Poneman and Christy Whitman, called New Kind of Power. And these are women that are all the things we're talking about here, Carl, that are the way that they've created their leadership in the world and their own programming is through the new kind of power that we're discussing here, that's based in the heart, that is based in connection and communion, that's spiritual in basis. But that's what's coming in January, February, and then next year, all year long, we're rolling out programs. We're actually working now on 2022's programs.
Wow.
Because we've pretty well got the whole thing set for next year. And it's a privilege. You mentioned I get to work with these amazing leaders all over the world. It's a privilege to work with them. They're amazing people, and they're all doing great things. And they're the people we work with, their heart is in the right place. They're not doing it just for materiality. They're doing it because they really want to help people on their conscious journey.
Just like you. I heard you mention that you're going to have Christy Whitman. Christy is my mentor. She's a past guest on the show. She certified me as a law of attraction life coach, and she is the real deal, a real sweetheart, and I will be excited to see that. But Steve, thank you so much. I mean, I can't even thank you enough, but anybody who comes upon this podcast episode with Steve Farrell is going to benefit. And thank you for what you do for the world, Steve. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Much love and light to you.
Yeah, to you too, Carl. Thank you for having me on your program, and my thanks to your listeners and viewers for just spending a little time together.
This has been another episode of World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with your host, Carl Gruber, a certified law of attraction life coach. We welcome you to tune in each and every episode of this podcast, World Awakenings, as we open your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that all the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to the truth of all things metaphysical and spiritual, and just how they play an all-important role in our moment-to-moment everyday life. Much love and light to you, my friend. Thank you for tuning in.